Okay, so I think let's get going. I know we probably are between lunch and now, so let's get going. I think the topic is data culture, and these days, every word you can put data in front, right? It can be data something, data something. So probably we should start with what do you think or what we think is data culture? Where do we start? Where do we end? Where do we draw the boundaries for data culture? So perhaps, Christos, we can start with you on that.
Sure, happy to. So at Elation and then myself, when I think of data culture, it's really about empowering organizations to leverage their data to the maximum benefit, the maximum value of the data that you capture. And so if you think about it, that's not a project, that's a character change that organizations have to make to really drive data consumption and data usage into every aspect of the business. So I think that's really what it means.
Still your thoughts?
Hello, everyone, and lovely to be here. So just to introduce myself again, I work for L'Oreal and look after our SAPMENA region, which is South Asia, Pacific and Middle East and North Africa. We have a big initiative around data culture in our organisation. We've got a pillar around creating use cases to add value across the organisation. But another pillar that's really important is about transforming all of our countries. I look after 33 different countries across my region, and it's about helping them become more data-driven. So for us, it's really about how do I enable everyone throughout the organisation to make a data-driven decision. I've got to choose between A and B. What is the best option with the data that I have to make that decision? So it's everything that encapsulates that. It's the education around it. It's making sure that they've got the right strategy in their place. It's making sure that they've got the right data ecosystem, etc. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's empowering them to make decision A or B with data at their hands.
Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. I think Sachin Tong from GovTech. I think for me, it's a very interesting thing. Culture, data culture, right? So I think it's all about how do we treat data in the organization, right? So everybody thinks about data as an asset. Data is the new oil, as I mentioned in the earlier presentation as well. But the culture is all about how do we actually engage the data, how do we educate, how do we actually promote the right kind of mindset in the organization, and how do we actually bring data into the operations of each business process. So just to give you an example, the work which we are trying to do in GovTech and in the organization is we are trying to identify that how data insights should be part of the business process. It cannot be seen as a silo. Business objective has to be seen with the data objective together. So that is the thing I have my view from a data culture perspective.
Well, thank you. I think all perfectly good views. And from my experience, and I've been meaning to ask this question for a while, given the diversity of the experiences you guys bring, we keep hearing about defensive and offensive data strategies. Does it have any, does the data culture get impacted by what strategy you have? For example, do you have I come from a banking environment and banking background, right? So we kind of tend to have a lot of regulation, heavy regulations and all, versus a pure innovative product company. Now, from your experiences or your sort of day-to-day roles, do you see a difference? How would you drive a data culture in an organization if you were, let's say, a more defensive organization versus a more offensive organization? Thoughts? Maybe, Sachin, we can start with you this time.
Okay, so I think Bhavesh has put me on the spot, right? So I think from our perspective, I think it's about data regulation and privacy and security. I don't think so banking or it's universal. It's a universal challenge for every industry. right? And now data compliance is one of the value propositions which companies do share with the customers, that how their data is treated. So for example, every customer is really very much interested nowadays how his or her data is being secured in the organization, how the data is being shared, and how it will be destroyed after the use case is done, right? So if you look at a GDPR and all those things. So I think from our perspective, we want to promote data sharing, but not at the cost of data privacy. So I think we are quite aggressive in terms of promoting data usage. We are very aggressive and progressive also in terms of doing data cataloging and identifying the data assets and ring fencing our data. The data owners are the people who make the decision whom to share, and then we actually use different mechanisms on the framework as well on the data privacy aspect. So I think it's very, very progressive the way we share the data.
Thank you for that. Any thoughts from from your perspective on how do you sort of drive data culture using these two strategies? Do you differentiate between the two, or it's just one size fits all?
So let me take it, hold on the external part of it and the environment. I'll tackle that part. I'll talk about how we drive data culture, because it's quite big for us at L'Oreal. We're not naturally a data-driven organisation. You don't think of L'Oreal and think tech or data, first of all. We're a very creative, entrepreneurial company. Everyone, you look at our CEO today, they're marketeers. A lot of our executive committees are background in marketing. They're very creative. They're very entrepreneurial. It's not quite as natural to pick up data and make data-driven decisions. Now, L'Oreal is over 100 years old, and we've been very successful. If you look over the last 5 years, the share price has increased over 70%. We're growing year on year, all through COVID. We're on track to be a $40 billion company this year. So we're no short of success either. So for our whole executive committee, they turn around quite easily and say, why should we trust these models? We've been so successful for so long. I've been doing this marketing for 20 years. Why should I trust a model that tells me to invest in channel TikTok over TV? So why should I do that? So to change this whole mindset of the organization to trust analytics and trust models has been a big part of our journey. So the first and foremost part of this is to show them the value of analytics. It's kind of like my nephew is anaphylactic to Nutella. I hope everyone knows what Nutella here is in Singapore. He's anaphylactic to Nutella, and my kids think, oh my gosh, he's never had Nutella before, he's never had chocolate, like he is missing out in life. But my daughter, she's a little bit wiser, she's 10, and goes, oh, but you know what, if he's never had chocolate, he doesn't understand what he's missing out on. And it's kind of like the same with analytics. You don't understand you don't value what you don't know, what you haven't tasted before. So a big part of our journey was getting all the key departments to have a bit of taste of chocolate, a bit of taste of analytics, to understand where the quick wins in each of the departments so that they can use a data-driven model or analytics or a dashboard of some sort to change the way that they make decisions and see and measure the value off the back of that. So we actually spun up some media mix models quite quickly within the organisation so that some of the departments could start using that, measured, and I saw our return on investment increase off the back of that. So that was number one. Show them what analytics really is capable of, what money is left on the table and the value. Number two then is also around educating, and I know we've spoken around education a bit today and Ben spoke about it too. We're on a journey around educating everyone in our entire organisation around data and analytics. All 85,000 employees have access to our Data for All program, which is an online education program. In some of our subsidiaries in ANZ, we started what we call an analytics academy, where everyone in the organisation understood just what is data, what is analytics, and then also for key users getting a little bit more to the point around data democratisation, how to use Power BI, Tableau, the tools, etc. The leadership is the other really key important part, to the point the story I said around why should I trust the model. It really took leadership in this journey to say, look, you know what, let's just try it. I'll take the brunt of the results. If it doesn't work, It's on me, it's not on your KPI. And let's try it. If it doesn't work, we'll never know. So leadership has been a big part of our journey in just saying, let's try something new, let's go do it. So getting our leaders on board has been another big part around. That's a bit of a long answer, but that's really key for what we've been working on, was really ensuring our leaders are on board, showcasing quick wins and value, educating everyone on the journey, and making sure we've got a really clear roadmap so everyone knows what's coming up ahead. It's kind of like that drip feeding of chocolate, so we don't lose the momentum too.
Thank you for that answer, and I think chocolate is awesome. So one thing that I was thinking about when you're going through the journey at L'Oreal is what kind of KPIs an organization like L'Oreal would use to measure, let's say, data culture or being more data driven. So I think there are a lot of programs you mentioned. Are there any key factors that one should consider to measure the journey itself? Any thoughts on that? That will be very helpful for the audience, I guess.
Yes, okay. Well, interesting question. We have two key KPIs that we measure, and there's a number of, if you think of a KPI tree, there's a number of different under that. Two key KPIs our country has is the value extraction from analytics and use cases. So ROI is whatever it is today, let's say 2, it's 3 tomorrow, and there's a value attributed to that ROI. So if you're obviously increasing your value extraction through the use of analytics and models, you're heading in the right direction. The other one is around maturity. So we've got a maturity measurement at L'Oreal. By maturity, we're on a journey from becoming laggards all the way to leaders in our analytics and the way that we drive business. And when it comes to maturity, there is a number of different KPIs or a framework under that. Do you have a strategy within your division around data and analytics and how it's enabling it? What is your vision? Do you have the right org model? Do you have a data-driven culture? Are you running experiments? Have you got the right team, the org structure, the learning and development pipeline? Are you doing the learning and development? Have you got the right data ecosystem, the right data assets? Is it clean? Is it of good quality, reliable, timely, et cetera, et cetera? So we've got a whole maturity framework that all have key KPIs. Learning and development's a simple one. Have you done your Data for All program? What is the current adoption of that particular program? And then going back into, so there's a whole bunch, I won't go through them all, but happy to take questions around all the KPIs. So we measure maturity and value. Going back to value though, on our use cases, there's two key things we measure. One is around adoption. Are you using the tool? And the other's around quality. For example, forecast algorithm, what's the forecast accuracy? Are we actually improving the quality of those models? Is the accuracy and bias good in those models? So there's no use using a really poor model, but at the same time, there's no use having a great model and it's not being used and adopted too. So we measure those two things, and ultimately they're leading indicators that feed into a lagging indicator of value. So that's the ultimate one.
Thank you. Probably I'm going to switch questions a little bit here, and of course you can take that same question as well and share your thoughts. But if you were to really define what data-driven organization truly means, how do you what are the components that one should think about, and what would be the top, therefore, the priorities and challenges for a CDO in that sense, right? So kind of a holistic question as opposed to a sort of one topic. What would you think in that sense?
Sure. So I think I'll say a couple things. So in order to really be effective in any kind of data strategy that you're trying to get to, an AI strategy or an advanced analytics strategy, first you have to have a data strategy. You have to have the fundamentals correct. And at Elation, we like to think of that as a catalog. So yes, the catalog guy is going to recommend you get a catalog for that. But if you think about why I would recommend that, it's in order to do any of this stuff, you have to understand what data you have. You have to understand the context in which it can be used, right? Going back to your question about defensive. How do I make sure that I'm not violating some of the rules that I have to follow, but still empower the organization to use this data to its maximum effect? And so just sort of getting to the point where I understand the context in which this can be used, and then rationalizing my asset footprint. If I have databases everywhere and redundancy everywhere, I'm actually less efficient as an organization because I'm constantly trying to figure out what the right thing to use is. I think the other layer on top of that, once you've laid a foundation, and I really like your conversations about the KPIs, value is the thing that moves you away from inertia. right? Changing the culture of an organization, nobody wants to do that. They want to just do what they've been doing, right? We've been successful until now. Why are you telling me to change? And if you can quantify the value that you expect from a use case, and then have a mechanism to quantify the realized value of delivering that use case, and you start to capture that over time, you really move towards a model of continuous ROI for this thing that is a continuous investment, right? Nobody's done with the journey to data culture. And then if you really take that to the next level, you can get to elements of data monetization. And if you can get to that point, you're really putting a value on the data and data assets themselves. And then all of a sudden, these people that are doing tasks that might seem menial, like stewardship or whatever you have that these tasks that people do, they pivot to more of an investment manager. I'm now managing my data assets under management. These are $1 million assets, maybe $1 billion assets. It's a big deal, right? And that's how you get people to move, because the value of the data that they're managing is known throughout the organization, plus it sustains the investment.
Thank you. Just a follow-up of what you just mentioned. Nowadays, the technology or technical advancement is super fast, right? I mean, things are coming every day new, right? Start with cloud, generative AI. I mean, we can't finish any session now without talking about ChatGPT these days. And all of this now has, and this is, of course, what I see and feel in my organization as well, where the whole data literacy, data culture has to speed up as well to catch up, right? I mean, so what are some of the methods or techniques or programs or whatever you want to call it, you have seen that are working for the whole organization to really come up to the curve? And I think it will be very difficult to catch up with everything that's going on. But where do you start on that journey? Because it looks like that you're already far behind from an organizational point of view.
Is that to me?
Go ahead, and then
Sure.
Of course, want to go to Sachin for that.
I mean, look, this in many ways is the origin story of Elation altogether. It's, hey, data is growing exponentially. How the heck is anybody going to understand how to use this? And so if you think about it through that lens, what you're doing with the catalog is capturing really all the institutional knowledge that you would need. And so if you think about this through, you mentioned ChatGPT. ChatGPT is amazing, but what it's using when you go to the site is it's using the public domain of all available information. Your private data doesn't have that. And so how is it going to know any context of your business unless you put it somewhere? And that's where a catalog would allow you to do that. And suddenly now you have this shared corpus of information, whether that's people that are going in and able to discover that, or technology that's able to go in and discover that. That really is how you accelerate that journey towards literacy, is you have to document it all, right?
Thank you. Any thoughts on that, Sachin, how we bring organizations to these multifold of new stuff being introduced every day?
Yeah, so I think technology is changing, and I think one of the key elements, and I think others have also touched upon, is the approach and bringing innovation into the data culture part, right? How open we are for trying new things, right? And one of the things which I always say is that don't be scared of getting failure and agile. Failure fast and learn fast. So that's the thing, and the beauty of going through the agile mindset. That's why I call agile data culture as well, right? That you actually learn things faster, innovate. You learn, you fail fast, and you evolve. And I think it's always driven on use cases as well. That what kind of innovation, because it's okay. ChatGPT is very up in the market. That doesn't mean that there should be a kind of mindset that we have to use ChatGPT unless we have a very clear defined use case. It's not like a fashion trend that, okay, this is something which we have to do it because people are running after that. So I think adoption, scalability, innovation comes hand in hand. And then I think it also depends on our use cases. And if it is really legitimate to go into the latest technology and try to do things from an innovation perspective, doing better from an operational efficiency, why not? But if it is not a clear defined use case just to do that, I'm not very convinced on that.
The use case topic, I think we all talk about use case driven approach in an organization. But then on the other hand, we have to think about educating the whole organization and bringing from a data literacy point of view up as well. What are some of the generic processes or things that an organization should do to bring up data literacy up in the organization without a use case specific sort of approach? Because of course, then there are objectives, so on and so forth. So any thoughts on that? And then I'll probably hear all your thoughts as well.
I think I will build on Crystal point of view. What she said, mention, give the taste of analytics to everybody. I think data literacy and I think data culture or all these things, right? When you're trying to drive change in the organization, change is not easy to make it happen, right? And the first question people will ask, what is there in for me? Why should I get on board onto your vision? What is there for me, right? So basically, I think it's all about getting the confidence and bringing them, okay, the data insights, analytics, or the data journey, the data life cycle is helping them to achieve their business objective, their KPIs, right? So I think when you start with this kind of conversation, it's very easy for making them aware about the data literacy and the kind of skill set is required in every business process or every small divisions in the organization to onboard. So I think that is very important to really define the clear kind of outcomes and success metric, how the success looks like for them in their business context and business KPI perspective. And I think one thing which also is very interesting, that when you want to make a change, you identify champions in it within the within the divisions, and we internally what we call them data champions, right? Where we actually identify a few set of people who will be the champions, and then they will be able to be the promoter of our vision into their division and in the organization. That's the way we do it in our organization, identifying data champions. And at a whole of government level as well, we do run data champion arcade tournaments and all those things where people are actually kind of getting interested. So when you excite people about this, I think you get their confidence.
Excellent thought. Crystal, any thoughts from you?
I echo exactly what was said there, but just to touch on the fun and exciting part of it too, I can give you some examples of things we've done that have just started to kick off the excitement. We want to try and make data and analytics cool. Like I said, L'Oreal is not traditionally a data or tech company. How do you make it cool to such an organisation that data is a bit of a dirty word? Data is often dirty. We don't trust it. It annoys me. It's time consuming. It's easier to choose A instead of B. I just choose it. I don't have to look at dashboards. I don't have to validate my data set. It's frustrating. It's annoying sometimes. So we wanted to make it quite cool and fun and a world that we all wanted to be part of. So, for example, in the Australian subsidiary, we called the whole transformation AVA. So AVA is quite a feminine and beautiful name, very suited for L'Oreal. It stands for adding value through analytics too. So it's not about data so much, it's more about adding value through analytics. Data is a byproduct of that is an enabler, of that, but it's not necessarily about data. So to your point about what does it mean for everyone though, we had to make our fun and journey really specific to what do I have to do? What do you want from me specifically? Whether it's about helping with data hygiene and data quality and data stewards, whether it's about better utilisation of tools, there had to be an action. But we've set up some things like plenary days where the whole entire organisation comes together. We all have drinks, we have lunch, and we have guest speakers, we have learning and development, we have little workshops, breakouts. What does it mean for you? So in the Australia-New Zealand subsidiary, they've done it. In Thailand, they did what they called Dataverse, and they had a bit more of a space theme to their one, and they had guest speakers. We had Silicon Valley speakers in ANZ. We had some Meta and TikTok speakers in Thailand. In Dubai, they had NASA, data scientists from NASA come in. So they made it fun, they made it cool, they brought external speakers in, they made a little bit of specificity on what is relevant for you or for L'Oreal or what action that you need to do. So a little bit of action orientated, but fun too. So I just wanted to reiterate, I think data and analytics is pretty cool and fun anyway. So it's pretty amazing what you can do now with it. So it's just bringing that element. I just wanted to draw that out too.
Oh, again, excellent. I think I picked up the word excite them about the journey from Sachin, and I think you added the cool and fun part to it. What would you say if you were to go on this journey? What other words we can pick up?
Yeah, I think we're very aligned on this path. I mean, you're really looking to decentralize it, right? To actually drive virality into the business. Find the experts. The people that are using your data for business ends are the experts and have the best examples of the value they're getting from it. And if you can bring those people to the forefront and really prop them up in front of the rest of the organization, people want to do the best work. And if that's the people that you're putting forward as doing the best work, they'll follow. And then you'll just build more examples and you just continue to create that cycle. So I think it's that, just decentralizing it can't just be a centralized, hey, here's this data and here's how you use this. Like, you actually have to get people using it out in the business world.
Well, thank you. I think I'll remember those words: excite them, fun and cool, and use the expert and build champions and all. So I think thank you very much. I probably will open to the floor if there are any questions for our esteemed panel here.
Sure. We have a mic.
There is a. Hi. This is Dr. Magahin, Energy for Global. You know, there wasn't even a moment of being boring. Okay, so I thought, you know, okay, and then listening to the panel, right? Okay, being here. Now, I have a question. The people here, we are an exceptional group. About data set and all that. And out there, half the population, right, probably are not even IT literate, you know, and then probably more than half the children, right, don't even have access to IoT devices. And then, you know, as they grow up, you know, I wonder, what do we do to bridge this gap, this culture gap, you know? Okay, I'm hoping that little speakers might address this. That's my concern. I'm more of a sociologist, so we talk about data culture. I mean, you have data storage, you have sustainable data, but for what? It's for people. All right. So if half the people, what is this? You know, right? And not only that, maybe the world 30+% of people are in the Asia group. You know, the above 60s, right? How are they going to deal with? Of course, they are dying breed, you know. Okay, but people will enter into that group. You know, all of us will enter into that group. Okay, that will probably take another 50, 100 years, you know, to become literate. So I don't know whether, of course, your current customer base are not there. The customers who are not data literate, basically, you can't ignore them because you make enough money from the customer who are data literate. The talking about democratization of data. People who feedback, people who use your data. Right? You go into a restaurant and the guy say, "Can I have a menu?" You say, "No, please scan your QR code." And you see people turning around, and so some restaurant now giving you the QR code as well as hard copy. All right. So really, this issue of merging the culture or narrowing the culture gap is something new area. Right? And that new area will give you discovery of new customers, new business, right? Okay, so I'd like to have some comments on that. Thank you.
Okay. Let me tackle that one in a simple way. I'll give you one. Although I think of multiple things come to mind, I'll just give you a simple answer. Time. I think education is a key one here, and on many different facets. And the way that we educate today, I do think needs to slightly change into the future. Today we go to high school, then we go to university, then we go get a job. As you can see in the current landscape, I'm sure every single one of you have been upskilling yourselves on ChatGPT and large language models and computational efficiencies and some of the white papers that have come out recently. We need a better platform for continuous education and learning. Workplaces, one of the first things that got cut during COVID was the learning and development P&L line. We cut costs on learning and development. Universities are aimed at their education program for high school, for university students. Where is the university for the workplace too? There's very few programs really dedicated for continuously learning throughout the whole entire workplace. So I do think there's more and more room for, in the workplace, a continuous learning approach, because the speed of change has never been this fast and it will never be this slow again either. So I think more and more, I think it's around education. Having said that, I will rebut one of the comments that you made that there is a whole sea of people that aren't data literate. In actual fact, a lot of the grads that we see come through, when I meet all the grads every year, we have a big grad intake from finance, in marketing, in supply chain, in all of our different functions. I always ask them, how many of you have learned R or Python in your undergrad? 80% of them these days will put up their hand, regardless of the degrees, the different degrees that are in. So I think more and more it's becoming a norm within the universities. But I think it's for us as data leaders to partner better with universities to bring the right education into the universities. I don't know how many universities are teaching cloud, as a simple example, or the fundamentals of cloud. It's up to us to partner better with universities and to bring this learning and development better into our workplaces. So education is going to be my key answer on that one.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Gentleman there.
This probably will be the last. I think we're running out of time.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My question would be that, so right now I'm actually more at the working level, but I'm also trying to drive a more data-centric culture. And what would you feel are the three most important things to focus on to drive a data-centric culture within the organization, especially if you come from a more traditional organization with data not built into the blueprint? Yeah. Thank you.
Would you like anyone specifically to answer that question?
I think I'll just open it up to the panel.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
I can take a stab. I think, just to repeat the question, it's the three most important things to drive a data culture. Yeah. So I think, one, understand the data that you have, right? And make that available so that people in the organization can find it and trust it and know how to use it. I think, Sachin in his presentation, actually, I thought did a good job of calling out when someone comes and says, hey, I've got this data, what's the use case? Go the other way around, right? And even take it a step further to, what are the KPIs you're going to use to measure the value of that use case when you deliver it? Understand the value that you're delivering and capture it, right? Because if you don't do that, you're going to have a hard time really sustaining the investment. And I think the third thing really is find the experts, right? This is not a centralized only approach. You need to find the experts in the business that are using data to its maximum effect and bring them into the fold and really champion them throughout the organization. I think you called those data champions earlier. And I think that's a really great way. I'd say those are the three that I would approach. There may be others, but.
So maybe I can just a little bit, give a little bit slightly different perspective, right? So I think whether it is data or any kind of change, right? The three key pillars for any kind of change is the people, process, and technology, right? Same mindset have to be done for data as well. When you are talking about data-centric or data culture or data-driven organization, it always starts with people, right? So basically, I think as we touched upon, and everybody in the panel also mentioned about data literacy, data culture, what is there in for. So I think start with people and process, right? In technology, in driving that change is the easiest part, right? If you have that mindset and the people and the processes in place, I think the change will be easy. Maybe Crystal, do you want to add something else?
Probably just very similar, but start with your business problem too, just adding the business problem element to it. Often adoption doesn't happen when it's driven by an IT department driving the product. It should be the business driving the product too. So do that. Then, I'll just summarize what I said earlier too. Show value. Give them all a taste of chocolate. Literally go buy them some chocolate. It's also quite fun. But then educate. Bring your leadership on board. Have a really clear plan too.
Okay, I think we probably are just about the time. So I would like to thank you very much for all your thoughts and the wisdom that you've shared. Quite a lot of learnings there. I think especially on how to. It's a complex topic, data culture. Where do you start? Where do you stop? And it kind of brings in all the elements that an organization can do or would do. So I think thank you for bringing it together from a start and end point of view, and what are the stages in between as well. So please put a hand together for our esteemed panel here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cloud creation opportunities that fuel chaos. And also we'd like to say a big thank you as well